Welcome to LinguaWire English B1. Today we have two stories, one about a new deadline for a US-EU trade deal and another about a ceasefire between the US and Iran after recent fighting. Follow us to practice your English every day with the latest episode. For transcripts and quizzes, visit linguawire.com. I'm here with Sarah, LinguaWire's trade correspondent. Sarah, what exactly happened with the US and the European Union about their trade deal?
Hello, Daniel. The main news is that President Donald Trump gave the European Union a deadline. They must remove their tariffs on US goods by July 4th. If they don't, Trump said the US will raise tariffs much higher.
July 4th is a special date. Why did Trump choose that day?
That day is important because it is the 250th birthday of the United States. Trump said it is a symbolic day for his country. He wants the EU to finish the deal before then.
What is new about this deadline? Have they been talking about this deal before?
Yes, the deal was made last July, but it has not been fully approved yet. The European Parliament gave conditional approval in March, but the 27 EU member countries still need to agree. Talks between EU lawmakers and governments recently stopped without an agreement. That is why Trump gave this new deadline.
So, why is this deadline important for both sides?
It is important because tariffs affect trade prices. If tariffs go up, goods become more expensive. Trump wants to protect US businesses by lowering EU tariffs. The EU wants to keep some tariffs, especially on steel and aluminium, because of Trump's global tariffs on those metals.
Interesting. And yet, the European Commission president said they are making good progress.
Yes. Ursula von der Leyen said on social media that both sides are still working on the deal. She said they are making good progress to reduce tariffs, but the deadline shows there is pressure to finish the deal soon.
What could happen after July 4th if the EU does not agree?
Trump said tariffs on European goods could go up to much higher levels right away. That could hurt European sellers and make prices higher for buyers in both places. It might also cause more trade problems between the US and Europe.
One thing people often miss here is the recent US Trade Court ruling. Can you explain that?
Sure. A US trade court said that Trump's 10% global tariffs are not allowed under US trade law. This means future tariffs could be stopped by courts. It adds more uncertainty to the trade situation.
Thanks, Sarah. That helps us understand the pressure and risks on both sides. Now I'm with Adam, LinguaWire's International Affairs correspondent. Adam, what is the latest about the US and Iran's ceasefire?
Hello, Daniel. The latest news is that even though the US and Iran fired weapons at each other on Thursday night, President Trump says the ceasefire is still in place. Both sides fired, but it is not clear who started the fighting.
What exactly happened during this exchange of fire?
Iran's military said the US attacked an Iranian oil tanker and other ships near the Strait of Hormuz. They also said the US made air attacks on some coastal areas. The US said it responded to Iranian attacks on US Navy ships with self-defense strikes.
That sounds serious. Why does the ceasefire still hold if both sides attacked?
Trump said Iran trifled with us today, meaning Iran tested the US. But he still said the ceasefire is in place. The US Central Command said it does not want to make the conflict bigger, but is ready to protect US forces. So both sides seem to want to avoid a full war, even after this fighting.
Why is the Strait of Hormuz important in this story?
The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway where many of the world's oil ships pass. It is very important for global oil supply. Fighting there can affect oil prices and world trade. That is why this exchange of fire is a big concern.
What could happen next in this situation?
The situation is tense. Iran said it is thinking about a US proposal to end the war, but the recent attacks show the ceasefire is weak. If either side makes a bigger mistake, it could lead to more fighting. The US says it wants to avoid more conflict, but it is ready to act if needed.
One detail that surprised me was the locations Iran mentioned for the US attacks. Can you tell us more?
Yes, Iran said the US attacked coastal areas of Bandar Kamir, Sirik, and Keshem Island. These are places near the Strait of Hormuz. It shows the fighting was not only at sea, but also included airstrikes on land.
So the fighting was both by sea and air?
Exactly. That detail shows the conflict is more complex than just ships firing at each other. It involves different types of military actions.
Thank you, Adam. This helps us see how delicate the ceasefire really is. Let's review some useful words from our first story about the US-EU trade deal. The theme is trade and tariffs. The first word is tariff. A tariff is a tax on goods when they move between countries. In the story, tariffs are taxes that the EU and US put on each other's products. For example, the government raised tariffs on imported cars. The second word is deadline. A deadline is the last day or time to do something. Trump gave the EU a deadline of July 4th to lower tariffs. For example, my project deadline is next Friday. The third word is agreement. An agreement is a decision or deal made between two or more groups. The US and EU made a trade agreement last year. For example, they signed an agreement to work together. Now for the second part, let's look at the verb to give. To give means to offer or provide something to someone. It is a very common verb. The simple present forms are I give, you give, he, she, it gives, we give, they give. Here are two example sentences. I give my friend a book, and she gives a speech every week. In our story, Trump gave the EU a deadline, meaning he offered a time limit for action. You can use give in many situations, like giving gifts or giving information. For example, I give my teacher a question, or he gives advice to his friends. That's all for today's language recap. Follow LinguaWire for the latest daily episode and build your daily language habit with us.